It began with a whisper and ended in fire. Europe was restless, hungry, bleeding from within. And then came a voice, one man whose words would ignite centuries of war. This is how the Crusades began. By the late 11th century, Europe was fractured. Kingdoms at odds, lords hungry for power, knights with no wars left to fight. The poor starved while the church grew richer. But far beyond their world was Jerusalem, the holy city, the heart of three faiths, Christian, Muslim, and Jewish. And for centuries, it had changed hands over and over again. But by 1095, it was under Muslim control, the Seljuk Turks. And for Christians, that meant one thing: pilgrimage, the sacred journey, was in danger. Stories spread. Pilgrims attacked, churches burned, relics stolen. Some stories true, some twisted by rumor. But fear spreads faster than truth. And fear is the spark of every crusade. In the city of Clermont, France, a crowd gathers. Thousands, peasants, lords, priests, and knights. The air smells of sweat, dust, and expectation. And then he appears, Pope Urban II. He raises his hands. Silence falls, and he speaks. He tells them of the Holy Land, desecrated, defiled. He paints a picture of horror and urgency. He tells them God himself calls upon them to fight, to take up the cross, to march east, to reclaim what was once theirs. Then he shouts the words that would echo across centuries: Deus vult, God wills it. The crowd erupts. Thousands scream it back. God wills it, God wills it. But beneath the faith, there's something else burning: ambition, desire, greed, salvation, a promise. Urban promises them something greater than land or gold: forgiveness. Fight for God and your sins will be erased. For the poor, it's a chance to start over. For knights, it's a war worthy of legend. For lords, it's new territory, new power, new fame. And for Europe, it's an escape from chaos. But not everyone joins for God. Some go for glory, some for gold, and some because the crowd around them screamed too loud to say no. The First Crusade had begun, and no one truly knew what that meant. They came from every corner of Europe. Knights with shining armor and banners of crosses, peasants with clubs and faith alone, entire families marching toward the unknown. No training, no plan, just a belief that heaven was waiting on the other side. But heaven wasn't waiting, hell was. The journey east was brutal. Thousands died before even reaching the Holy Land. Disease, starvation, betrayal. The so-called People's Crusade, led not by knights but by peasants, collapsed almost instantly. They were slaughtered by Turkish forces before they ever saw Jerusalem. But behind them marched the real armies, the knights, the warlords, the ones who would not stop until the world burned. They reached Constantinople, the jewel of the Byzantine Empire. Emperor Alexios I had called for help, but when he saw what had arrived, tens of thousands of armed fanatics shouting "God wills it," he realized he might have unleashed something far worse than his enemies. He ferried them across into Asia Minor, eager to get them out of his city. And once there, the Crusaders unleashed a storm. They fought like men possessed. Town after town fell. Blood ran through streets. Christian, Muslim, Jew, it didn't matter. Anyone in their path was seen as the enemy. But their eyes were always on one city, Jerusalem, the Holy Land. And as they marched, their legend grew. In every tavern, every church, songs were sung about holy warriors reclaiming God's kingdom. Back home they were heroes. Out here, they were monsters in armor. Years passed, battles won, armies broken, entire cities wiped from the earth. But finally, they reached the gates of Jerusalem, June 1099. The Crusaders surrounded the city, starvation inside, desperation outside. For weeks they waited. Then they built siege towers, rolled them forward under the blazing sun. Arrows rained down, stones crashed, the walls trembled, and then the gates fell. What followed was not victory. It was carnage. Men waded through blood up to their ankles, entire communities slaughtered in the name of God. The Crusaders roamed the streets, killing, burning, looting. They entered the Al-Aqsa Mosque and turned it into a slaughterhouse. But when it was done, when the screams finally faded, they fell to their knees and wept. They believed they had saved the world. Jerusalem was theirs, at least for now. The First Crusade was a victory, but at a cost so horrifying history still trembles at it. And yet, it was only the beginning. The Crusades would stretch on for nearly 200 years, a clash of civilizations, faiths, and empires. Kings would rise and fall, heroes would become monsters, and both sides would claim righteousness even as they burned the world. But in that moment in 1099, none of that mattered. They had won. They believed God smiled upon them, and they had no idea the storm they had unleashed would never truly end. Because once blood is spilled in the name of heaven, it never washes away. The Crusades had begun, and history would never be the same.